gathering myself, and I don't want any. I just want to watch Newcastle now, and I just want to watch what they do. I've just talked to Faraz, who cooked as a Saudi meal when I wore a Saudi dress. I got tortured for it, but there was 250,000 watched me, stevewraith and Steve Hastie dressed up like what the Mac have said goons. But they don't get it. They don't get that standing there in national Saudi dress is an honour, and you know, it's how I was brought up. If you look after me, I'll look after you. And if you're nice to my family, I'll be nice to yours. And these people have come over and invested in this football club like nobody else has before ever in my lifetime. So at 61, if I live 20 years, I'm going to watch 20 years of happiness. And if the Saudis have done this, then I'm a Saudi. If you've got a problem with that, then we're different. But when they did that, when Faraz cooked us this meal, and I just thought to myself, Jesus, this is just surreal. It's great, you know what I mean? And like, as well as them being a good cook, I just thought, wow, this is just a great place to be. But when we go to games now, I just said to somebody at the bar, said, you know, nobody complains when the team's picked. Nobody ever says, like, oh shit, he's playing. I tell you how bad it is. I tell you what it is. Like, if he puts Lascelles and Shelby in tomorrow, I won't complain. Now that's massive. It's because, you know, I've never been a Lascelles or a Shelby fan, and if he picks them tomorrow, I'll just go, you know what you're doing. And I've never done that since 1969 when I first started supporting. It's a surreal position. The club and the players and the fans are united, and it'll take a lot of years to break this, because what's happening in Newcastle now is not happening anywhere in any other football club in the world. We've just got this passion, and we've got this belief, and the one thing we've got is hope. And we all think we can do it. And I've been on a podcast tonight and was asked when we'll win silverware, and I said definitely in the next 18 months. If it's not this year, definitely the next. When we get the Champions League in the next 18 months. I think the signings we make in January will confirm that. And I have a friend who came over from Australia last week. He flew in from Australia and flew back out. I took the game and he sat next to me, Peter Beasley, and he just said, you don't know what it means to come over here and sit with Peter Beasley. I says, I know. And he went back to his hotel on the night. He was staying in the Stevenson Quarter in Newcastle. And who was staying at the same hotel? But this couple called Amanda and Murdoch, they were staying at the same hotel. The hotel had got in touch with them. And he messages on the night, he says, Keith, I'm sat in a bar in the Crown Plaza. Amanda and Murdoch sitting here. He says, we've hit the red stuff. I said, what's that? He said, on the red wine. And Murdoch, you know, they've had a few. And he started telling him, he says, we're not playing at this. He says, in January we're going to go again. And then, you know, he sends that message to him. I'm sitting reading it. 10 to my missus, I'm watching the telly, and I'm going, oh my God, Newcastle are going to have a go, and in January we're going to bring some more players in. So I think what we see now is the very, very start of something that's going to be massive. I don't just mean PIF buying in. I don't just mean. I think this team is going to be one of the biggest teams in the world. I think what they're doing now is towing the line. I think they're behaving themselves to avoid too much criticism. But I think there's going to be a time very soon when they say bollocks, let's just do it. And I think Newcastle's going to bring players in that make you wet your pants, and bring players in that you just go, you're not going to believe what's happened. And if they've got the same ilk and mindset as the Trippiers of the world, the Gamerish, I mean, is there a nicer bloke? Is there a better footballer that you've seen the last 10 years? That kid looks awesome. And when I see Mickey smile, he makes me smile. I just, everything about Newcastle in it, I just love. And sort of average players have become good players. And kids have been treated badly, like Sean Longstaff was under stevewraith, have been transformed into people that want to run through walls. And you people, I look at kids now and I think, you lucky little shit. I see you old people and I say, hang on there. You know, just hang on there, son. Don't you go. I'm just going to the toilet, but don't you go anywhere. But the reality is, you're just on the start. have a massive, massive, massive thing. And you'll get the shit I get. You know, I get more shit than anybody.
Not me.
I've even been nice to Joe walking today, mate, all day.
The problem is Joe apparently claims that he's 43 today. And
That's what?
Joe reckons he's 43 today. I mean, and it's the youngsters like Joe, that's what's worrying us, you know.
You've heard of when they clock a car, haven't you? You know, turn the clock back. So Joe is, he's so old, he can't take yes for an answer. And that's from his wife.
The Ford Cortina, isn't he?
It's nice though, it's the first time. Joe's been a great backer, he's been a great support to me, and I can remember great with him, and it was just great to do this, put a tweet out, and Julie of Troll fame, said to us, she said to us, it's the first time I read this message, I read all the way to the bottom because it was a Keith Patterson message, and I got to the bottom, and there was no mistake. He said, I couldn't believe it. Why did you not wind Joe up there? And I said, she's perfect. That's fine.
It's always tomorrow, Joe.
Tomorrow normal service will be resumed. Mr. Walker, put your steel suit on.
Definitely. You wrote one letter, Keith, one letter. It's a long letter.
It's funny, you know, you'd say you wrote one letter and it stuck, you know what I mean? And people said that you fancy doing the book, and I just imagine a book that showed just one letter, but let's put that in perspective, you just want to do one letter. There was somebody come on the podcast tonight and he said, Joe warned us to, because Joe said, while I've been sat as the king, that somebody had put on, they wrote on the podcast, I watched Nick DeMarco the other night, and if anybody watched that, they'll know Keith Patterson nothing to do with the takeover. And the words dickhead come to my mind so quickly, I just thought, how stupid are you? So, I've got on my computer so many 100 messages to Nick DeMarco, and I have so many 100 back. And I've got messages of Nick DeMarco where he said, as Keith, as a QPR fan, not as a lawyer, I just want to say what you've done for this football club is amazing. And he was up by the food bank after the takeover, and this fellow will tell you, he walked past and they were shouting, Nick, 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 and they were yelling at him across the street, and he kept walking, and he kept going, Nick, 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 and he just kept walking and walking. And then, I think it was Bill Cochran, who runs this place, shouted, Nick, we Keith Patterson's mate, and he turned back and went over. And he thought I was there, so he obviously out the courtesy come over, and he said, he's not here, we just wanted to get you over that we come here. So Nick DeMarco at the pattern, he's been a lovely fella, but what do they want us to do? Do they want us to show these things I've signed NDAs for? I mean, I would lose hundreds of thousands of pounds if I broke them NDAs. But trust us, I am trying to work with the people I signed them for to see if I can release them.
Yeah.
And my aim is to release everything and show you what was really happening. But what I can tell you is what was happening is there was 4 people, and it's never been promoted, but there was a guy called John Woff who was in it tonight, who's one of the longest diehards Newcastle you'll ever find. He was part of the Magpie group, he was the brains and a lot of the muscle behind people like John,
yes.
behind John Hall. I mean, so when we went to the Keegan era, a lot of that was John Woff and co-created. And you had Neil Mitchell, which is George Mitchell's son, Geordie Dentist, to a lot of you. You had this fella sitting next to us, Steve Hastie, and you had that man who knows now, Steve Wraith. And them 4 people had meetings throughout the takeover, and you know, it's a fact of life. They're down on record. They've never come to you and said, this is what's happened, this is what hasn't happened. But they were in talks, and they would come to me, and they would say to us, as far as the competition action goes, Keith, Mandra Murdoch want you to do a report to tell them why it might be a move now to do a pincer movement, and maybe get them to take an action against the EPL to show why there was a financial loss by the takeover people. So Mandra Murdoch had this 10 million deposit, and if the takeover was stopped illegally, then they would have a genuine financial loss under the Competition Act. So they asked me to do a report, and I did the report. I sent it through Steve Wraith back to them, and then texts came back, and you know, there was dialogue all the way through, and At the same time they did that, the only person who sold the football club was Mike Hastie. And whatever people think of him, you probably notice I never slagged them off. And the reason being is, I slagged them off enough before the takeover. I got to the point where I thought, well, slagging them off doesn't work. There's some daft who carried a coffin around one day and put a victor's outfit on it. and nothing worked. And I think he just enjoyed a lot of that. I think he thought, you know, you think you've got us, you think you've beaten us, but you're not going to beat us. Now, when I went to them, I knocked the door and I just said, you're not going to get this takeover. It won't happen. And they said, why? I said, because you're doing this as an arbitration. And an arbitration gives you a bench. And that bench is your pick, the EPL's pick, and then you've got to agree the third pick. Unfortunately, if you don't agree the third pick, the written rule of the arbitration in the Premier League is that the FA take the third pick, which is the EPL. So you'd have had the EPL choosing a homer, Newcastle choosing a homer, and then you'd have had the FA doing the same. You'd have got beat 2-1 in any arbitration. Worse than that, arbitration doesn't allow you any disclosure. So if you've been slaughtering somebody, if you did something illegal, you can go into an arbitration, you don't have to give that evidence. And they said, well, why do you think you could do different? I said, because what they're doing is anti-competitive. And if you run a cat case, you call it a cat case, but it's actually an anti-competitive case. But a cat case gives you unlimited disclosure. What it also does, there's no such rule as confidentiality, which is what the Premier League bank on. So there's lots and lots and lots of statements that the Premier League sit down. And what they said to Newcastle was, if you break any of these confidentiality, the deal's off. And I don't know if you remember, but you cast your minds back to where Newcastle once went on the 6 o'clock news, and they went on the 6 o'clock news and they said, Newcastle United are taking legal action against the Premier League. I don't know if you remember that. It was the 6 o'clock news, it was on Time Teams and BBC, and it was like so many months after Takeover died. I reckon it was about July, August time, 2021. And what they did, they went in and they said there's a case being run by Newcastle United. Let us just tell you tonight how that happened, because I can tell you that without breaking what I've signed. What happened was, I took an action against the Premier League and put 6 points down, and my QC said you only got to win one game. We knew 3 couldn't be beat. They could not, in a month of Sundays, beat 3 of those arguments. We thought we were good on 5, and we thought one was a tryout. We thought one was just a fancy, it had a bit of sauce in it to make them look stupid. So we run the case on 6. They tried to answer those cases. They miserably couldn't answer 4 of the points. And 2 of those points they couldn't answer was 2 we knew that nobody could answer. They tried to answer the 1 of the points we knew they couldn't answer and made complete dogs dinner of it. And Chia Wanya, the Labour MP for Newcastle, she could have verified that point. She could have stood up in court and won that point for us. So we would win all 3. But what they did was they wrote back to us that day, they wrote us a letter and they said, we can't answer your case, they didn't call us key, they called us NCSL. We can't answer the case because we're running a case against the Premier League and against Newcastle United at the same time. And we think it's unfair to run 2 cases at the same time. I have phoned Newcastle United up, who I was already in talks with, and I said, they're telling me they can't run my case because you've got a case going. Have they really, said Newcastle United? Do you know they've signed a document to say they'll never divulge there's litigation going on between our 2 companies? So that day, you know that Nick DeMarco bloke who doesn't know me, who I've never met? He got in touch with us and he dictated my response. So I went to Liam Kennedy, who was my go-to person in the press, and I did a press release to say Newcastle United just told me that they will not take a case with the fans because they run a case against Newcastle United. That was bingo for the football club, because the football club could never get this takeover until all this deliberation and all this pausing and stalling had been put out of the way. But that night, that day, when we went to the press, Newcastle United went to the press. I didn't go to the press. I went to the press with a letter when Newcastle went to the television. Newcastle went to the Times, the BBC, and said Newcastle had taken a case against the Premier League. And it's the first time Newcastle were allowed to announce that. And that's when the pressure started. That's when the takeover started to turn. That's when the Premier League's rules are you cannot divulge anything. But I said to Justin Barnes, who ran this case for the club, I said, under competition law, there's no such thing as a secret. Under competition law, you're not allowed to use the word confidentiality. You can have as much disclosure you want. If you stay there for 3 months, you've got to know the far end of the far, where it flew from and who bagged it. You get everything, every single thing out. And I said, the case you run is not going to work. So some fans, one lawyer who belonged to the fanzine was telling me that I didn't know what I'm talking about. He said, you need to run the arbitration first. And I wanted to call him useless. I didn't realise how much of a mind reader I was, how accurate I was. This guy's telling me, run the arbitration first. If the arbitration ran first, you'd still be owned by Mike Ashley or somebody from America. But if the CAP case runs first, you'll win, and they can't defend it. And the rest is history. The rest being done, the rest has got you where you're at today, and they were never, ever, ever going to be able to beat the CAP case. And does it surprise you? When the CAP case ran, I was told from the club to try and get lots of fans to get involved. And I said, why? He said it would just be better. The lawyer said it would be better if people can dial in, because what it does, it brings it public. So I said, there's a CAP case coming and it's going to go public. What a disappointing figure. Biggest attendance on an online legal dispute in history. 33,000 people. What a disappointment your fans are. It's as though you can never get off your asses and do anything like that. Do you need one? And then a quarter of the world's countries, 25% of the world's countries attended that meeting. And what you saw was annihilation. I'm just a private person, so I can say this. But I didn't think Johnny Joe was that great that day. I don't think he's in Robert O'Donoghue's league. In the chambers, they both work at. O'Donoghue was rated much higher than him. But O'Donoghue built the case, we handed it to the club, and then Joe ran it. That day, I thought Joe missed three attempts where he could have nailed the Premier League down then. And it was like a posted note, passing line, they were like passing posted notes. That guy who represented the EPL that day he was voted QC of the year. He was absolutely Man City level. He was brilliant, but he had no information. He was running a shit case. And so that case should have shown you that Newcastle's walked all over them today. So where do we go now? Where are we at now? And why did we get involved in it? I don't. One day I was sat, and a man there spoke out and said, we need the fans to come forward. And I was stood there, and a couple of people said to me, said, what do you think? And I said, it's anti-competitive. And they said, well, you've done that. That's what you do. And I said, I don't do it, but I've done it. And he said, why do you get him? And that night, I stupidly read something by this famous guy called C.S. Lewis. All you literary people know who he is. And he did a statement, there's this famous statement he's got that says, you can never change the beginning, but you can go now and change the ending. I read it, and I went to sleep dreaming that, and I woke the next morning and I thought, you can't change the beginning, but you change the ending. And I thought, somebody's telling you need to do something here, and I stupidly did it. And it's freakish that I'd worked on a court case where we consumed, me and the other side, £55 million in legal fees. That's what we did. The company I was a director, minority owner of, consumed 25 million, and the other side 30 million. And it got settled out of court, but it was a competition action. And that's how I knew how to do it. And then stupidly, when my dad came down from Hastie with a man from sea houses, they put a black and white top on us. And when you put that work background and that black and white top, and you've got a head full of magic, you think, oh, I might be the bloke who could tell them where they're going wrong. And the day I went into the football club and said, do you know why you've lost the takeover? And they said, no. I thought, holy shit. I'm neck deep in brown stuff now, because I knew why they lost it, and I had a document that would win a court case that someone had given us. And that document from Behind Sports would win any competition action. It was made a legal action and collective lobbying. So I have that document, and I've got Justin Barnes, Nick DeMarco, Shai Fatima sat in the room, and they're telling me they don't know why the first takeover was turned down. And I thought, shit, I do. And then I thought, shit, I've got a document. And so I told them I did, told them I had the document, and from then on the rest just happened, I guess. But somebody said tonight, I think it was Tom Dixon said, would you go and work for another football club if they needed to do similar action? No. Would you go and do something in Newcastle? No, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be. I don't want to see people bully people. I don't see cartels win, but the same token, I've done more than I wanted to do. I did 14 months, unpaid work. I had 14-hour days. I had to move out of my house. I had to move my fiancée out. I had to live with my brother who was suffering from cancer, and I don't want to go back there. And to get abuse of some Mackhams, some trolls, but some people from your own fan base who are thick is more than anybody should ever take, and I don't want to do it again. All I want to do is just go to match with you lot, wink when I pass you, have a drink with you, pay me to do anything for nothing, I don't want any tickets or anything. I just want to support Newcastle United.
So to paraphrase all that, Keith, you didn't know really, did you?
The one letter, it was 300 pages,
I just want to clarify, I only asked you to come up and tell us what you thought tomorrow would be like, How do you think the game will go, That's all I wanted to know.
While I'm up here, there's a couple of people, there's a few people I want to thank. I want to thank George Mitchell just for giving us someone to look up to. I just think you're an amazing fella, and I love you to bits. I think when George does these shows and he gives all that information out, he doesn't realise how young people like me, I don't think he realises how we sap that up and how much we admire him and how much we love what he does and who he is, and how much everybody needs somebody look up to. I've got one ambition in Newcastle, and that's to be at Wembley when we win something. I just, there's something about a cup that's different to Champions League and everything else, and to be in a cup when you hoist the cup up and just hug George, then take me in the box, So that's one person. I want to thank my fiancée Karen for putting up with us. She must be a bit mad, but they say behind every great man is a great woman. Well, I wish I was as great as she's been. I've got to thank 4 people that's been special to me, and it's, I don't have any shame in it, and it's Steve Hastie, stevewraith, Neil Mitchell, Joe Walker, who's just been there for us. When you look back and you just know people, they're going to they're going to tell you to ignore the shit, and they're going to just keep practicing. This fellow here next to me, he's as straight as the eyes, the most honest man in the fan base, and he just, every time, he never fails to say the words he's thinking. And I don't know what makes these do this, because I haven't done this like this, or I haven't done all this podcasting or anything. But I'm not so sure I'll be around for whenever, but I see the crap stevewraith gets, and I just think, what makes him keep on going, keep on doing it? And, I think he should have had a lot more from the club after the table went through. I really do. I think things happen, and people get nervous with people, and I just look at them lads, and I had to find, not a podcast, but I had to find a media to get the message out. The club said to me, you need to get close to the fans, kid, because I'm someone that was just me, and I was just a bloke in the corner with, watching the game, and they said you need to get closer because you need to calm them down. If you don't calm them down and they keep revolting and keep doing Ashley out, he'll just go and sell it to somebody else. And I said, okay. And I looked at all the podcasts, and some of them are bizarre. I mean, some of them are for like unbalanced people. You know, you're looking and thinking, I wouldn't let him in my house. You know what I mean? And you're looking and say, I wouldn't let him walk my dog. And then I found these guys, and I thought I wouldn't let them in the house or walk me.
That's true, by the way. He did let us in the house, but he wouldn't let us anywhere near the dog.
Well, because you look like the dog.
Never lose with it.
His dog was called Ashley.
What happened is I watched them, and there was I'll bury this myth and all. Like no, there was this war fund group, and they went and spoke to these guys, and they just made a hash of it, and then it was going to collapse, and then they said somebody's going to have to put their name up in front, and I had all the legal stuff, and I had the QCs, and in the end, there was no money there. You know, there was no money. The fans didn't want to pay any money. The people who set war fund had no money, and they just said someone's going to have to do it, and all I did was I just backed me with my legal people to an extent, but I got to a point where if the case was going to run massive, it went into big bills, it went into big money, and you know, the tens of thousands mounted up. But if it had gone to an action in court, I think Mike Ashley would come forward and support it to the tune of about $500,000. And that's why I don't slag people off, because as much as he made a bollocks to Newcastle, he believed in me, and they sort of supported me. So I don't want to just slag people off for the sake of slagging people off. He made a complete arsehole to this thing. He would say the same himself, I think, if you sat him down. But I'm no Ashley fan, but I'm equally not here to knock somebody who supported me or believed in it. But them four lads had the platform, they had the members, they had the users, they had everything. And when I looked at them now, I still don't know why you do it. I still don't know why you had more crap in the last 18 months, Dave, than I could handle. I don't handle crap very much. I just block people all the time to get stuff. And I'm not like very tolerant with idiots. You know what I mean? I just have a low idiot factor tolerance with it. I just think like I look at people and I just look at it, you're like my Uncle Nobed. You know what I mean? I just think, I can't be bothered listening to you anymore. And I have a rule, I just think if I wouldn't have a pint with you there, I wouldn't listen to you online. And if I wouldn't come home and sit with you or say, do you fancy a drink? Or I wouldn't go out with you on a Friday night, what do I want to listen to you for on Twitter? It's just a stupid media, you know what I mean? So, but these lads have been doing for years. And Neil Mitchell has a good skill because he just takes this. He's as mad as a box of frogs, and he just seems to get through with it a lot. But you know, Joe's at it. Joe put a t-shirt on and me and went to bed to sleep, and I thought, I don't think he went to bed, he just closed his eyes. Still does. Joe, don't talk about after it. You went to bed, you sleep it, you went to bed. But he had a shirt and me on, and he puts it on Twitter, and then all these cronies start saying that, like, giving Joe a hard time, and I'm thinking, like, how bright are you? You know, like, does the lift go at the top? You know, like Mr. Bungalow, come over here, Joey's really having a joke at your expense. So I want to thank you for letting us in. I want to thank you for letting us out after the table, because I've got, you know, I did a runner after the table. I was one night and going out with me, I just said, oh, enough of this, like. And I have a lower tolerance level than all them. But I want to thank the fellow who I met through the whole setup called Johnny Allen, who's in ADD, and I just want to say to you, he's the bloke who never gets any praise. He's the bloke who does more for charity, more for everybody than anyone in this room, including me. He's John. I introduced John Allen to Peter Beasley, and it's great. Stevewraith introduced him to Peter Beasley. He sent a message for me for my birthday. Peter Beasley rang us and said, "Oh, you know, I want to meet you." And then the next thing, like, made up. I took Steve, Hastie and Jed down to the Falklands to make the interviews and Peter Bailey. And that's what you do when you trust people, you pass the contact and you share them. And so from stevewraith to the lads to me, and then one day I said, oh, Peter's want to get back to coaching. And you know, I think he's had a raw deal for the club, but that's my opinion. I think he's a brilliant man. And every time he won the game, then he'll do 1,000 photographs with fans, and they'll all tell him you're the best player to ever wore a black and white shirt. How he's not in the football club, you know, as an ambassador, and maybe Keith Gillespie gets in. I don't know. I think Peter Blazy is the best player I've ever seen signed for Newcastle. I think he's just an amazing talent. He's also a nice fella, and I introduced Johnny Allen to him, and within weeks, George put his own money down, and he won't want us to say it, but I don't care. But I look at him and I say, John, and before you know it, he's got Peter Basie coaching again, he's coaching the kids, and people's having great experiences, and it's just so positive. And then the next thing you find out is, oh, there's not enough people turning up, so Johnny Allen is now sponsoring kids who haven't got enough money to go, so that Peter Basie can still coach his kids. That's what he does. He's the John behind NUFC Matters. He's the bloke who sells swag. He's the bloke who gets me the game every week. And I pay him for me ticket every week, but he sorts everything. He's a resourceful lad. And you know, when you come out here tonight, people say, oh, I met stevewraith, I met Keith Patterson, I met Steve Hastie. Make sure you meet John Allen, because there was a great man.
Well said, Keith. We'll round it up, which was the last show anyway. Tomorrow?
I think we'll win 3-0.
Excellent. That's all I need to hear.
Alright.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.